Hola, ¿qué tal, gente? I know it's been a while. I'm sorry, but I haven't really known what content to bring you guys from our boys of Santos Bravos, simply because we've been surviving on 0% for the past 2 months. But at the same time, it's only been 2 months, you know? I get it's like obviously we can't expect them to have like brand new music already. So I get it, but it's like I feel like all of us are a little bit starved for content. I know that they've been doing lives, which are a whole thing in of it in and of themselves. That's like a whole nother topic that I will touch on at the end of the video. But obviously, I'm here because we were all surprised with a random 12th episode from our favorite show, which was Santos Bravos, like the making, basically the chronicling the making of the group. I feel like none of us knew that this episode was gonna randomly drop, so it was a surprise for all of us. Obviously, like my makeup is all gone because I was crying. I was crying. I don't know like which one of you guys did not cry during this episode. If you didn't, you're lying. Um, but yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Still don't know what our fandom name is. It has to be all inclusive, so it can't be bravas, bravitas. I feel like los bravos because you know usually when in Spanish when it's unfortunately, everything gets masculinized even though it includes women, but whatever. But today's episode, Donde Quiero Estar. Um, I cried the first. I've lost track of how long how long that section lasted, but it took us back literally to debut night when a little bit further back. So started off the episode talking about showing us them coming to what's it called? Oh my god, what's the place called? Asamblea Nacional, creo que era. So it started off with them going there, and obviously, like, this is the venue you're gonna perform in. Obviously, back in their training building, they recreated the stage so they could practice for the Asamblea Nacional stage, so they would obviously know the formations and know how much space they could work with and everything. Um, it was also, I'm not gonna lie to you, it was like bittersweet seeing the other five contestants again because I feel like all of us had kind of already like most of us reconciled saying goodbye to Pablo, Yanis, Lucas, um, Leo, and even Alex. You know, obviously we know they still have socials and they post on those, but it's different not seeing them with the boys that debuted. So seeing them again was like, oh my god, like opening an old wound, you know? Because for those of us that were obviously, even though our favorites debuted, it was still bittersweet to see these other guys not debut, especially like knowing their bond between all 10 of them. So it was definitely a bittersweet moment seeing them again and like seeing, I appreciated them showing us like the preparation, the that went into their debut concert. Obviously working with the choreographer. I like her name literally just slipped my mind. I knew it, I had it, but it just went choo. Um, Working with her, obviously her teaching them how to like use the stage, how to use the space, obviously working on the formations, working on like making sure the arm placements were at the right level and things like that. But also, one thing that I appreciated from I forget his I literally as soon as I turn on the camera I forget everybody's names. But one of the main I don't want to call him coaches because he wasn't really shown that much, but one of the main judges, I appreciated the advice he told them. He told them like it doesn't have to be no. This was what's his name? The one that they would always show. He's like it doesn't have to be perfect, but you have to be like in the moment. You have to be give all you've got. You know, like because you're performing for a group. But one a piece of advice that I did appreciate from the judges was that he told them don't over sing because it's like if you're a boxer if you throw out a really strong first punch, you're gonna tire yourself out for the rest of the, the rest of the fight. So don't over sing, because it's not about doing this big wow moment and then you didn't pace yourself for the rest of the show. So, which obviously I feel like fits perfectly with how some of our previous contestants had a habit of over singing, in the need of like showing that they had the talent when it wasn't really needed. I feel like the five that made it through and debuted, they were able to pace themselves. They didn't over sing. They waited until it was their turn to shine, until they were giving the moment, like, okay, this is when you get to shine and like give it your all. And that pacing themselves, that's why they were selected. That's why they made the final five. So I really appreciate seeing that little behind the scenes of the preparation, the rehearsals for the final performance. Obviously, again, seeing again when they were selected, but here's to show how much editing can change the perspective. When we had seen, like, previously seen the behind the scenes video of when they found out they would who was debuting, it looked like everybody was still in the same room together when they were announced, and then they went off to, the five that were debuting went off to change. However, now we see that as they were being called, announced as they were performing, as they were debuting, they were leaving the room one by one. So at the end of, after like Kenneth was announced, Kenneth left the room and it was only the five left that didn't debut. Like, that is such a stark contrast to how it was edited previously, where it made it look like everybody was still in the same room and celebrating and hugging each other. Just knowing that, like, wow, as soon as they were announced, they obviously, everybody broke down crying, their emotions came out, like we got to see exactly how they felt, like their reactions. And then they left because they had to go change to perform. And I did appreciate seeing how at the very end, when it was the last five, they did say, like, you guys also worked hard, appreciate it. Everybody out there in the audience knows that, what you're worth, that you've all the work you've done. So seeing them get that acknowledgement was also like a little bit more closure personally. But on top of that, getting to hear what the five members were feeling on stage when they were being told, like, what part you're gonna sing. And again, her name just slipped my brain again. When you could hear the voiceover of her saying, like, you guys got this, you worked so hard, this is your moment to shine, this is your stage. Like, hearing those words of how she was hyping them up, getting ready for them to perform, and like bringing them to the moment, being mentally prepared, because they all mentioned that they were like still thinking of, like, what just happened, like, did that just happen, did I just get announced as a debut, but like now we have to perform. So hearing those words of like comfort and praise and just like talking them up like a pep talk brought them back into the moment, so they were able to perform for the crowd that was there. So I really like that. Also, another thing that I liked is we got, again, a little bit more closure, because we got to see the next day the remaining five, Yanis, Lucas, Leo, Pablo, and Alex, kind of like say their piece, say how they felt about the whole experience. Obviously, they're all gonna say they feel lucky to be a part of that experience. But I really appreciated Lucas talking about how, this is just opening doors for them to do so many more things. And how appreciative of everything he was. And the fact that they all said, like, especially Lucas, he said, like, it was, I can't remember if it was Lucas or Yanis that said that they were, obviously it was like sad for them that they didn't make it, but they had such a good relationship between all 10 of them that they're happy that the others made it. It's like sad for them, and it's only for a moment. It's not something devastating. I think it was Lucas. It's something like, no es devastador, sino que es momentáneo. De que claro que te sientes triste, pero ya lo superó y sabe que sigue, viene algo mejor para él. O algo, otra oportunidad de salir para él, pero aunque se siente triste, no fue devastador, porque al mismo tiempo está contento por sus otros miembros, por sus otros amigos, de que ellos lo lograron. Y sabe que al estar en ese escenario, que de 10,000 personas, les abrió las puertas para otras oportunidades, y saben que les vienen oportunidades en el camino. So that whole, I love that aspect, because I feel like some fans still needed to hear that yes, their favorites didn't debut, but they're happy for their other members. They're happy for their friends. So if they're happy, why do you have to hate on the people that debuted, you know? Like, if the people that went through the experience, the people that lived it and went through the heartbreak of not making it, if they're, oh, I want to say like over it, or if they've come to terms with what happened, they're like, okay, it's sad, but I'm I'm surprisingly okay with how everything went down and like who was selected. I'm happy for them. The fans, the solo fans should be happy as well. Like, you can't say, "Oh no, that member's just saying it for the camera." When you clearly see it's genuine, it comes from genuine from them. You could see it in their eyes, you could see it in their smile. Like, none of them looked bitter because they all know, like, this is just a stepping stone. Like, I know it's gonna open possibilities. So I really appreciated like that first portion of the episode. And then also I love that it basically the second half of the episode just encapsulated the past 2 months, because I can't believe, if I remember correctly, they debuted October 21st. And it's not even December 21st. It's literally been 2 months. It feels like it's been such a long time, but now putting in that perspective, it's been like only 2 months, and we got to see everything they went through, from like their promo in Miami, like being in all the interviews, being like in the Despierta America, I think it was, um, doing their first live performance post concert, you know, at the club, and how they prepared for that. They were preparing like uh, in the dance studio, and also like rehearsing their lines and their formations. I feel like it was nice to see like the behind the scenes of that whole whirlwind press tour that they did, coming to the US, and also that they did in Mexico. But then also, once they came back to LA, seeing how they were recording in the studio, Drew literally like coming home, how was the first experience for some of the members coming to LA, and just being like, oh my god, we're coming as artists. We're not coming as like just random tourists. We're coming as recording artists. Like, I really love seeing that whole, like, their point of view, like what they were living. It's almost like giving us a little peek of what they were living for the past 2 months. Um, Besides, obviously, those of us who have watched the interviews on YouTube, it's nice to see the behind the scenes of like how they were preparing and what they were going through, and all seeing like those interviews from them also is like talking about like how their experience was when they debuted, like what they were feeling, being able to like voice that, to give us like a little peek into their minds, if you want to think of it that way. But what else was I gonna say? Oh, obviously we saw a little bit of an extended clip of their first interaction with their first samba names with 17. I love seeing that behind the scenes, obviously when they were backstage. And also the way Jessica was introducing each member, she told them like, you know, this is like, they just debuted 5 days ago, congratulations. She was literally, she was, even though they're Latin artists, she was showing them the culture, because it's a Hybe, it's like a Hybe family. Hybe groups are like a family. Like, as much as haters want to say that it's forced, it's not. Like, that's one of the things that I do like about Hybe, and that it stems from Big Hit. Because if you guys remember, Big Hit money built Hybe, basically. And Big Hit is called, the tagline is music for healing. So obviously Hybe is an expansion of that. It's music that they want to use for, it's inclusive. All their artists are inclusive. They want to create this feeling of family between all artists. They don't want to create they're not the type of label that create competition within their artists. They're not the type of label that says like, this artist is under our umbrella and you're competing with them. They don't compete with each other, which is why those of you that are K-pop fans that have followed the other Hive artists like 17 and Hyphen, TXT, The Seraphim, Islet, now Cordis, Cat's Eye, Ant Team, I forgot how the new Korean group, Japanese called, I think it's Aeon, Tuus, Boy Next Door, all of those, if you're a fan of like any of those or overlap, you know that the labels stagger their comebacks, their releases, so they're not competing with each other. Like you're not gonna have like a big B-lift label have drop an album at the same time that a Pledis label artist drops in that comeback. You're definitely not gonna see any other groups from Pledis, B-lift, um, Source Music, um, Hybe Japan have a comeback the same time as BTS, or have the comeback at the same time as TXT, because they let their artists have their moment to shine, have their moment of promo before they're like, okay, now we're dropping the other group's comeback. So that's why I say, like, as much as haters like to say that the whole Hybe family concept is forced, it's really not. Like within the company, they trying to create this umbrella of like our artists actually get along with each other, and you see it in their interactions. Yes, they schedule challenges with each other. It's scheduled because all artists' schedules have to be scheduled because they have so much going on. What is going on with my hair? But in their interactions, you can tell that they actually like each other. They like, it's not a forced like, we're gonna pretend to be friends. They actually like each other because they film the behind the scenes of the challenge, recordings of the challenges. So in that aspect, going back to Santos Bravos meeting 17, it's like 17 is the first official Hybe group that greeted, well, not actually the second, because the first one was Le Seraphim. It's the second Hybe group that greeted them in person, like welcomed them to the Hybe family, because we already had Hybe do it via video, and then we had Boy Next Door doing via video as well on their debut day, but in person, 17 was the second artist that welcomed them into the family, into the Hybe family, which is why Jessica was showing Santos Bravos like, this is how you greet your sunbenims, which is like obviously your senior artists, and you bow to them and you say, hello 17 sunbenim, we are Santos Bravos, nice to meet you, you know, which they did pretty good saying, you know, I can't remember if they said 안녕하세요, but they said 17 sunbenim, Santos Bravos 입니다, 잘 부탁드립니다, and they bowed. And obviously I love the interaction, like how Jessica was introducing them, like, this is, who did she start with? This is Gabi, he's from Puerto Rico. This is Alejandro, he's from Peru. This is Kenneth, our Magne, he's 16 years old, he's from Mexico. This is Drew, he used to be, like, back in the day, he was a backup dancer for BTS. And then this is Kawe from Brazil, our main vocalist. So the fact that she introduced them individually to them was like so cool to see. And obviously we're like, main vocalist Kawe, and you know, obviously we have the Magne, but introducing them individually instead of just like, this is Santos Bravos, blah blah blah, and seeing their extra interactions, it's like welcoming them into the family, which it was nice to see, because we already saw Le Seraphim do it when they showed up at the Santos Bravos training center, and they did the little challenge for, I think, what was their last single before Spaghetti? Was it Crazy? Yeah, it was Act Like an Angel, Dress Like Crazy. So I loved seeing that little interaction. But then also then when they came to LA, I loved seeing them in the studio, you know, like living the dream, literally living the dream of recording. Like, this is where other artists have recorded. And I loved, you guys know I'm a ARMY. Like, my alt group is BTS. So I was like, Kawe, you get me, you fanboy, when he mentioned this. Like, he mentioned watching Suga's documentary from The Road to D-Day, where it shows that he was recording in that studio. I was like, go Kawe, you know, like, you guys really do like the artists. They're not like just saying we like BTS because we're in Hybe. I know a lot of them, even in their lives, that they've said like, who doesn't like BTS? Yes, part of it is like, obviously there are seniors. We're not going to ignore the fact that we are here thanks to them, partially because, like I said, BTS, Big Hit Money built Hybe. You can't deny that. But it's nice to see the mentioning each other, because I just know, you guys, just as soon as BTS has a comeback, all the other Hybe groups are gonna have interactions with them, and they're gonna have challenges. So I really, really do believe we have a BTS Santos Bravos interaction coming. As it is, it's kind of a disadvantage that they're based in Mexico, and all the artists, the rest of the artists, are based in Korea, and then Katsai in the US. But we've been seeing like interactions kind of through doing each other's challenges. You know, Santos Bravos has been doing, they did like the Boys Next Door, they did N Team, they did, I think they did Islet, if I remember correctly. So they've been doing each other challenges. So that's like kind of a way that they're able to interact with each other. I really wished like they would have done interaction with Cat's Eye, but obviously they were preparing for their tour, so their paths didn't overlap, not even while they were in LA, because Santos Bravos was recording the Portuguese version of 0%, which I still haven't listened to, but it's not that I haven't listened to because I don't want to. I've literally, don't ask me how I've done it. I'm holding off on listening to it because I want to react to it for you guys. Obviously, I've heard the little pieces that it's in clips, because on all their socials they're posting the Portuguese version now, and I already know like Kawa did an amazing job helping coaching them with the pronunciation of the Portuguese lyrics, but you can still hear each individual member's flavor. So I want to like literally take my time to like enjoy and like be able to pull out each vocals and see like how they've changed from when they filmed the original Spanish version of 0%, because obviously they've gotten better with their vocals, as we saw in the last episode. They're still continuing with training and development. Just because they viewed doesn't mean they stop honing their skills. They're still working on the dance portion of it, and they're still working on their vocals. And like Drew said, working with new producers unlocks like new aspects that they didn't know they had of their vocals, because new producers will tell them like, sing it like this, no, try it again and sing it like this now, no, try it again and do it like this now, until they're like, that's the sound that I was waiting for. So it's nice for them as new artists to be able to work with tenured producers that can basically like guide them into keep trying. That's the sound I wanted to unlock. And now they're like, oh, that's a new sound that I didn't know I had, but now I know how to access it. So that's also awesome. And I also liked that working with this producer, I think his name was Tony. I'm telling you, the names, choo. He was able to like rein them in, because at one point he was coaching Kenneth about like how to sing in a specific way, and then he was coaching, I think it was, I can't remember who he was talking to, but he was like, no vibrato. So sometimes some of them have the habits of going into the vibrato, trying to be like, you know, but he's like, no, don't do that. I don't need that right now. Like, I just want a clean vocal. I don't want like all those vocal gymnastics. So it's nice for them to work with producers that can tell them like, you can showcase your vocals without doing too much. There's a time for when you need to add the little extra spice. Now is not the time. Save it for later. And also like that keeps honing their skills vocally, and like helping them tap into those different types of vocals, so that when they're performing new songs, they have new skills unlocked, if you want to say. If they're like gamers, there's a new skill unlocked. Which brings us to, obviously, we are so surprised. Kenneth and Alex hadn't spoiled anything about about January. Ooh, surprise. So we already knew that there something was coming in January, but we know it's a new song, a new single. I can't forget if they said it's gonna be all in Spanish or in English. But I have already seen the discourse from fans that are like worried about like, no, we wanted a Latin pop band. They're still Latin pop. Just because they're working with a Korean choreographer doesn't mean it's not going to be Latin. You know, that's like stereotyping. There's a lot of Korean choreographers, African American choreographers, white choreographers, Latin choreographers that can choreograph for other styles besides their their ethnicity. You know, just because you're Latin doesn't mean you can only choreograph Latin. Just because you're Korean doesn't mean you only choreograph K-pop. Just because you're white doesn't mean you only choreograph, I don't even know what you would call Western style of dance. And just because you're African American doesn't mean you can only do hip hop and like pop and lock. You know, there's dance is all inclusive. You don't have to be a specific race to be able to do different types of dance. You just have to try, have a little bit of talent, but also do a lot of practice and really have the heart to nail down that style. That's all it takes. So just because they're working with a Korean choreographer, this is really bugging me, you guys. Just because they're working with a Korean choreographer doesn't mean it's going to be K-pop. What it means, personally, to me, and from like seeing other groups, it means that the choreography is going to be dynamic, it's going to be precise, it's going to be clean, there's going to be formations, so it's going to be insane, basically. Because those of you who follow Cat's Eye, you know that their artistic director is Son Sung-duk, whom we saw featured during the Hype episode. He's Korean, and he is a choreographer because he was BTS's original choreographer. So, but he's obviously they've worked with Western choreographers, but the fact that he's the artistic director, he has a lot of input on how he wants things to look because the man's a perfectionist, like I've already mentioned before. So if you guys have seen Cat's Eye performances, if you've gone to the tours, like the dance breaks are insane. Like the Gabriella dance break, oh my god, that's insane. And that's you can consider that a Latin inspired song, but the choreographers are not Latin. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know at least like one of them is white. And also the dance break they did for debut at Mama, that dance break was insane. Like when the original one with like the cheerleaders, that dance break was insane, you know, but that doesn't mean that the choreographer was like a specific race. So don't pigeonhole people just because of where they come from, that expecting that it's going to be a K-pop choreography. No, it just means that it's going to be precise, it's going to be sharp, it's going to be clean, it's going to be dynamic, it's going to have a lot of content, a lot of nuance, a lot of formations. So there's going to be a lot for you to see. Like those of you fans that are not into K-pop or too familiar with K-pop, or even like if you're into other artists that are not Hybe groups, it's not to shade, but it's a fact. Hybe groups are known as performance artists. I know they get hated on for their vocals, even though every group has a main vocalist and they're amazing. They're not like, I mean, Yeonjin from Islet, literally she was an opera singer, so I don't know what you guys people are complaining about. But Hybe artists are distinguished by their performance factor. So Santos Bravos is going to give out a performance. I know we're used to Latin artists having weaker dance and just being more flowy and going with the beat with the music, but they were trained with the K-pop structure. So expect that you're going to see really dynamic performances in choreographies once they start releasing new music and new content and performances. So I'm excited to see that. I mean, I trust that the song is gonna be like Alejandro said, it's gonna be less Santos, a little bit more Bravos. So if it's gonna be a little bit more Bravos, I feel like it's gonna have a little bit more of the Latin flavor that we're expecting, with just an amazing choreography besides just like hands, you know? It's gonna be dynamic, because otherwise, why do they get challenged to do dances to Dynamite, and why do they get challenged to do a performance like Bad Desire if they're not gonna incorporate the dance portion of it? So just please have faith that they're gonna still stay Latin, but just deliver an amazing performance. I'm excited to see it. Um, they said the single's gonna drop in a couple weeks, which would bring us into end of December, or it could be a couple weeks because it's, I think they said January 23rd. So I'm excited. It gives us something to look forward to. And that brings me to the last thing that I wanted to talk about, which I've also seen a lot of discourse about this on socials. And it's become a joke now, but also I don't know if a lot of you guys are aware how it works. So I just want to share what I've seen from experience with, again, other artists that use weavers to communicate with fans. I do love that even though Santos Bravos are within the Hybe community, and I don't know if you guys caught this, it's kind of like lesser of two evils. I'm not even lesser of two evils. It's got a little bit of the negative side of being under the umbrella of a K-pop company, is that they're gonna get pigeonholed into being like, literally one of the interviewers like the K-pop breaking into the Latin K-pop. No, it's not Latin K-pop. How can it be Latin K-pop if K is for Korean? It can't be Latin Korean pop. That doesn't make sense. That's what a lot of people don't get. K-pop is not a genre. The genre is pop. Popular music. The K is for Korean, just like C-pop is Chinese pop. J-pop is Japanese pop. You could even say M-pop for, I don't know, L-pop for Latin pop, you know? But pop is popular. The K is for Korean, so it's not Latin K-pop group. It's not a Latin Korean popular group. It's just a Latin pop group. That's what it is. But unfortunately, I already see it, and we've seen it since the show was airing pre-40 you. People are like, oh, they're a K-pop group, but in Spanish. No. Just like the people still think Cat's Eye is a K-pop group. It's like, no. They sing in English. They're based in the US. They're a global girl group. They don't sing in Korean. Santos Bravos is not singing in Korean either. They're singing in Spanish and now in Portuguese. So they're literally tapping into that Latin market. So that's one thing that you guys are going to see a lot. That people are going to try to pigeonhole them into the K-pop category. But those people are being ignorant because they're not understanding that the K in K-pop is Korean pop. And they're not a Latin Korean pop group. Because that just doesn't make sense. But anyways, going back to Weavers. I do appreciate that because they're a Latin group, they're given more freedom than what most Korean artists have. Because Korean artists, they have like things that they can and can't talk about, especially if you're newer. They're more like restricted of like what they can talk about, what they can share, how personal they can get. Obviously, if they're more tenured, like BTS and 17, they're like, we don't care. We're gonna just say whatever we want. If you're BTS, I'm just gonna turn on the live in the middle of the night, sleeping in my bed, and you're gonna watch me like half asleep talking to you. You're gonna watch me cooking. You're gonna watch me gaming. You're gonna watch me just like turn on live whenever I want at home, because I don't need my manager standing on the other side of the camera telling me, don't say that or don't spoil that, you know, because they've been doing this for a year and they've earned the right to say whatever they feel like it. Obviously, newer artists are still more restricted of what they can spoil, even though we already have our spoiler king. I think it's a competition between Alejandro and Kenneth, to be honest with you guys. But we already have our spoiler kings. But I do like that they get to be themselves, because they're still, I guess you could still, they're still kids, even though Drew is 25. I love that Drew, you could tell that he's having the time of his life, feeling more youthful and being more like, I don't want to say childish, but like more carefree, since he's dealing with like Gabi and Kenneth and Kawe that are like so chaotic, and then Alejandro's just so mischievous. You don't even know what the guy's gonna say. But I love like that the camaraderie that they can be themselves with each other now. They're so comfortable and they're just so was out almost basically since 0% dropped. I haven't posted anything on Santos Bravos, but like I mentioned, there's between the lives and the interviews and the clips, I can't post about everything because obviously we're all experiencing it differently. But when it comes to like episodes or new music, you'll definitely see me coming here and talking to you guys about it, reacting to it, giving you my feedback on it. But I feel like as far as, you know, their social media posts or their lives, I probably won't be on here. So hopefully once they start bringing out more content with music or with videos, things like that, I'll be able to like come in here more often and talk about our boys, our Santos Bravos boys. Obviously, once they announce what our fandom name is going to be, that's going to be exciting. I don't know if they're ever going to officially announce everybody else's positions besides two of them that we already know, which is Kenneth the Magnate and Kawi the main vocalist. We already unofficially know that Drew is the main dancer, but we still, I feel like, you know, I still feel like Ale is the all-rounder, and Gabby, I don't know what Gabby's would be, the visuals, because I feel like they all have visuals. But anyways, I'm loving the journey. I'm so glad that they gave us this episode. I feel like it was like a little gift for us, encapsulating the whirlwind of the past 2 months. It was definitely like taking us back in time to reliving the debut, that moment, when they found out that they were debuting. Like I mentioned, I cried because I was like, oh my god, those are my boys. I'm so happy how far they've come. The fact that, you know, they're getting the, I call it the Hybe treatment, because the fact that other Hybe artists are doing their choreo for 0%, and the Santos Bravos in turn is doing their choreos of the ones that just had comebacks, because that's how it works. They only interchange if they're currently actively promoting. So I think that's like so nice that they're opening, like Santos Bravos is opening the doors for other Santos Bravos fans to get introduced to other Hybe artists, but also Hybe artists that have been there for longer are opening their doors for their fans to be like, hey, this is our newer brother group, Santos Bravos, like check out their music because this is their dance challenge. So literally, that's the advantage of the Hybe family effect. The Hybe family treatment is that just within the Hybe labels, you have so many artists that they can interact with without needing to go outside. They have like so much exposure between all the fandoms, and it's up to us fans if we want to check out the other artists' music or if we don't. You're not being forced to, but just the fact that my artists are being introduced to other fans by other artists, that's a bonus, and that's something that I'm happy about, because I feel like most fans' goals is not to gatekeep your artists, is you want your artists to become more known globally so they can continue to grow and they continue to see that success. But anyways, thank you guys for tuning in again. Hopefully it won't be another 2 months till I see you. Definitely will be at least a month until the new mystery single drops. But let me know what you guys thought of this episode in the comments. Any other things that you want to just chat about, catch up about, if you want to talk about the lives, if you want to talk about your thoughts on the new song, always leave me a comment. A like if you would like, and I will see you next time.